Hello, hello, all. Garland Nixon here, and it's Friday morning. We're going to talk a little about this whole AI economy thing and what it really means. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and I want to take a little bit of an angle. Sorry about that, but I am turning the sound off on my phone because you know what? Every time I turn around, I'm doing a video and the phone starts ringing, and people are like, "What the heck's going on here, Garland?" So we're going to turn the sound off on the phone. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Let us talk about this AI thing from a different perspective. Let's talk about it from a broad perspective. I got some notes here and some things I was thinking that I would like to share with you. Let's start here. So what's going on? The last I heard, I don't know how much money has spent. Donald Trump, Trump talked about spending $500 billion on AI, right? $500 billion, $500 billion. But we get back to this. Okay, so that's $1 trillion on the economy, on the military, right? Remember, he increased the military budget by 150 billion after saying he was going to reduce it and it's got to go down, blah blah blah, while running. Which don't be, come on, we're being lied to. This is the way it works. Now this just when Biden ran in 2020, I could give you a list of things he said he was going to do. Absolutely none of them did he really try to do. Or the few things that he pretended to try, he just said Kirsten Gillibrand and the Senate parliamentarian and everybody else stopped me from doing it. Okay. Trump comes in, he's going to do a bunch of stuff. None of them, of course. None of them. He's doing his immigration stuff, which, there's a highly questionable law here. And there's even people like me who are constitutionalists who believe in the foundation of the Bill of Rights, who are like, look, I don't want to hear any excuses for violating the Bill of Rights. But at any rate, so let's keep going. One of the things I think you have to start with when you're talking about AI is coming to grips with the reality of what it means for a working class economy, right? Why? What we've been getting from president after president every 4 years, right? So they deindustrialize, intentionally deindustrialize the economy, intentionally. What was that? What does that mean when I say deindustrialization? And this is important in the context of a discussion about AI. This is critical. This is the foundation about for a discussion of the AI. AIization, right? The technologicalization of an economy. We're making up words here, but you know what I'm saying, right? You're talking about an economy that's an industrial economy. You're talking about maybe a commodities economy, oil and mining and things. You're talking about, in the instance of the US, a financialized economy that's built on financial speculation, right? What is the foundation of your economy? AI would be a technology where your economy is founded on technology, right? But basing a economy on technology in and of itself kind of implies that there's no need for the working class, right? Because what is technology generally supposed to do for the wealthy class, for the billionaires, for the people that own everything? What's the idea of technology for you if you own a corporation? It is to lower wages. It is to lower labor cost, right? Okay, great. I need 10,000 people in this factory to build things on the factory lines. Guess what I can do? I can now bring in robots and AI and fire all 10,000 people. So to say that a economy is founded on technology, it's kind of like founding it on speculation, right? The base of my economy is financial speculation. What do I need workers for? I just need a bunch of some people who are going to be day traders, some people who are going to be crypto traders and crypto miners, some people who are going to sit in and dream up new financial tools on Wall Street so I can, speculate and I can sell people things that don't exist. I don't need a bunch of workers for that. I don't need a bunch of mouths to feed for that. Okay. And when you talk about an AI based economy, look, when Trump got elected, and you looked in the front row and there's $1.5 trillion worth of people, and there's only a half a dozen guys in there. You look there, there's Peter Thiel, there's Elon Musk, there's all these billionaires sitting there in the front row. You know that they now are the ones who are going to have the say in the direction we're going, right? Technology. Okay. So if you say I'm basing my accounting my economy on technology, think about this. Biden, we're going to bring back these good jobs. We're going to bring back, remember all these jobs that were gone? We're bringing them back. Of course, you're not doing that. Remember Trump, we're bringing back good jobs. We're going to return America, make America great again. That implies that you're going to have a bunch of factories. But if it's an AI-based economy and a technology-based economy, even if you have the factories, you ain't going to need nobody to work in them. So an AI-based economy is the opposite of deindustrialization. It's technologicalization, right? It's saying I want lots and lots of industry, but I don't want to have to pay people. Think about this. Let's do the how industrialization, the idea of industrialization for the billionaires. Think about this progression. Number one, and this is important, this is critical in building a foundation for how we discuss AI. Number one, you build a bunch of factories and you have an industrial revolution and you need people in there and you put them in there and you have child labor and you have no laws that it says it has to be safe on the working factory floor or nothing, and people get mangled and smashed and torn to shreds because it's unsafe. People are breathing all kinds of terrible chemicals and they're dying of mesothelioma and everything else because it's unsafe, and there's no law that says it has to be safe. And you got child labor and all of these things where you exploit the working class, right? So you exploit the worker and you have mass industrialization and the billionaires are making a fortune. However, the people start saying, well, this ain't working. And then you have like unions and different things like that happen. And then eventually what happens is the people start to come together and say, we want safety. Oh, wait a minute, you're pouring methyl ethyl horrible into our streams. We don't want that. And at some point you get some pushback. The industrialization of the country starts to be a detriment. You're pouring crap into streams. You're hurting the working class. You got a child labor. You're working people 7 days a week. They push back, and that levels out. And so now the government comes in and says, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is enough. You can't pour this crap into streams, and you can't just exploit your workers. They got to have some rights, things like that, right? So then what happens? So you've gone from unbridled industry where you take advantage of the working class. Next, and the final is going to be AI. The next stage, you say, well, look, we can't do that here in America, but where can we? So now you say, I want the same thing that I had in the foundation of industry, which is unbridled industrialization, no laws, no anything. I can do anything I want. I can basically have, what do you call them now? Sweatshops. We didn't call them sweatshops when we were here, but we call them sweatshops when they're overseas. So you build them in China, you build them in Bangladesh, you build them in Latin America, you build them in Haiti, all of these places. The corporations then say, I want to go back to a time when I could build a factory, I could pour anything I wanted in the environment. I could mistreat the workers. I could pay them next to nothing. Child labor. So they do that. They say what we call deindustrialization really is taking these factories and all of these things and just moving them to a country where I can do the things that I did in the initial stage of mass industrialization, except I can do them in this other country because number one, they don't have the laws. Number two, if they start to get the laws, I can overthrow the government and kill them. So now it becomes, let's move them to this country. And if somebody comes to power and says, this is not fair to our people, the people elect some Garland Nixon. And Garland says, I'm now the president of fill in the blank, Bangladesh, whatever country. Hey, guys, this is unfair. Right? You get the same pushback that you got in America. A political class rises as a result of the people feeling that they're being taken advantage of. And that political class represents the people and says to these corporations from America, what you have to do is you got to do what you did back in America. You got to have a little bit of safety here. And, you can't work the people in these sweatshops to death. And the American power says, one moment. Hello, government, send the CIA over and kill those guys and overthrow the government. The U.S. does it and continues this in that country. So in the other country, it's easy for them to do. All they got to do is overthrow the government, kill whoever they need, blah, blah, blah. Well, they found ways to do it here too, but that's a whole other story. At any rate, so you see, step one, unbridled industrialization, and you just, take advantage of the workers in America. Step two, the workers in America say, we ain't going to put up with that. You move that to Bangladesh and China and Vietnam or wherever. Step three, they push back against that. You overthrow their government so you can still do it, but we're still going forward. But now you're discovering, look, man, I can do factories with no workers whatsoever. Okay. Now, what was the political rhetoric here for both Biden and Trump? I'm going to bring good jobs back for Americans. I'm going to reindustrialize, right? And part of it now is this, what they call national security, what I call the need to dominate the entire world and tell everybody what to do, the need for 4% of the world's population in the United States to dominate the other 92%, 96%. And it isn't even the 4%. It's the tiny fraction of the 0.1% saying we want to dominate the world. Like 0.1% of the 4%, not even 0.1% of the world, 0.1% of the 4% in the United States say we want to dominate the world at the expense of the rest of the 4%, at the expense of the rest of the world and our own people. Okay, so now when they see reindustrialization, that's what we'll call it, we start to see something else about that. The lie was we want to reindustrialize, and we're going to build factories that everybody can go work in again, building widgets. You can get on the line and your job is to twist this piece of metal this way and stick it here. And then the next comes guy, and that's what you do all day long. And you make a good job for a good salary, and you get a retirement. When I was a kid, I knew a guy who worked for SK Sausage, and he worked on the line, basically stuffing sausages or something by hand. And the guy had a nice home. He was one of my dad's fishing buddies. My dad was a longshoreman. This guy worked for SK Sausage. He had a nice home. He had his wife didn't, I think she might have worked at a part-time job. And he had a nice middle-class life, stuffing friggin' sausages or something at SK, right? And a retirement and Social Security. Okay, that was then. Now, the factories do all that. So when they talk, the robots. So now when they talk about it, right? Initially, reindustrialization was, we'll still need people to answer the phones or something, or to ask, would you like to supersize that? Would you like a coffee, sir? Would you like a venti? What size coffee would you want? What do you want? Kind of creamer do you want? Really, minor jobs or answering phones or something like that. Service jobs, gig jobs, things like that. You could still use people for the low-paying jobs, but you bring these factories back. Why? So that Russia and China and the other countries don't dominate the industries. Not because you want to do anything for the people, but because that 0.1% now says, oh my God, we made a mistake because Russia and China and these other countries are dominating the industrial landscape. And all we really care about is ruling the world and completely dominating the world. So reindustrialization has nothing to do with the working class, as they told us. Vote for me, I'll reindustrialize, and you people will all have good jobs. What they really mean is, that's all lies. Just vote for me. Number one. Number two, reindustrialize means we bring back these factories. We're going to do away with those laws that say we can't pour this crap in the water. Forget that in the environment. But most importantly, we're going to reindustrialize with robots. And so you can serve coffee at the mini mart, get a job there, maybe get a job, shoveling crap on the roads or, filling potholes. That's the best thing you're going to get. But this whole idea that we're going to rebuild industry and you're going to get jobs from it, forget it. Not happening. Reindustrialization does not benefit you. Number one. Now let's go to the next part. That's terrible. It's all terrible. And that is the concept of reindustrialization and the reason for reindustrialization, right? The reason for reindustrialization that we were given, vote for me for president, vote for me for senator, so we will reindustrialize. Why are we going to reindustrialize? Because we represent you, and we know a strong economy means bringing jobs back, but that's a lie. That's a lie. Why do they want to reindustrialize? Because the 0.1% of the 4%, the 0.1%, everything they do, all of it is we want to dominate and rule the world, and we've lost and we're losing domination. It went from we're losing world domination to we've lost world domination and we got to get it back. We can't admit that we've lost world domination, even though we have. But we kind of know we've lost it. We're going to take it back. So it went from we're ruling the world. Oh crap, we're losing ruling the world. Oh crap, we've lost ruling the world. Oh crap, we got to go back to the top and take it again, right? Okay. So it becomes we got to rebuild our economy. But what is the goal of rebuilding your economy, right? Garland Nixon wants to rebuild the economy. Why? What is the goal of rebuilding the economy? Why do I want to rebuild the economy? Garland Nixon, you're president. Why do you want to rebuild the economy? So we'll have a strong, diverse economy, right? When I was in Belarus, you know what? The one thing they were proud of, the diversity of their economy. They said, yes, we've got a diverse economy. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, well, we've got this huge dairy sector, and we build some technology, and we build farm equipment, and they went on to all the different things they do in their economy. And they were like, we're a small country, but we have to have a diverse economy, because if dairy drops, people stop buying dairy, we still got other jobs. If people stop buying farm equipment, if that falls apart, we got other jobs. If people start buying mine equipment that we build, if people stop by all of these sectors, right? It was deliberately saying we're a small country, we have to have a diverse economy. Why? That was for the people. That was so the people have jobs, and so the country will be stable. The globalists do not have any particular country that they have allegiance to. They're not like, I'm an American, therefore we got to keep America strong. Since they're not an American, they're not a Brit, they're not anything. They're only like, anywhere in the world I can make money. They have no reason to be concerned about keeping the American economy strong. They could care less if every one of us starves. Doesn't matter to them. This is a global domination, right? Okay. So when they say we want to rebuild the economy, because their goal, you might have heard me talk about this before, because their goal is world domination, they say we want to rebuild the American economy, but only in a manner that's going to further our goal of world domination, which unfortunately for the working class is detrimental to everything the working class needs. It's not about prosperity, it's about wealth. Wealth is putting the hands in a few super rich people. Prosperity is putting money in the hands of everyone, giving opportunity for everybody, jobs and all that stuff, right? Okay. Because if you're looking at prosperity, you need heavy industry. If you're looking to build a strong economy, you need heavy industry. You need to make aluminum. You need to make steel. You need heavy industry, right? But if you're looking to dominate the world, you just look at the economy and say, what will help me dominate the world? There's the problem that most Americans don't understand. The goal is to dominate the world. So therefore, you say, number one, what's going to help us dominate the world? Military industrial complex, the banking sector, but I repeat myself, and technology. That's what I need to dominate the world. So those are the only three things you focus on. Who cares how it affects? These things are going to be detrimental to the working class. But remember, we're not trying to rebuild the economy for prosperity. If that were the case, we'd reindustrialize, and we would not just reindustrialize. You put Garland Nixon in charge of the economy. It's not just about reindustrialization. It is about a diverse economy, because a diverse economy is healthy. If you ask someone about investing your money, what's the first thing they're going to tell you? You want to have a diversification of investments. You want to put money in this. You don't want to put all of your money in widgets, because if the widget sector goes down, you lose everything. You want to put some in widgets, some in smidgets, some in fridgets, some in everything. If this one drops, you still got it over there, right? It is the nature, right? The diversification of life in a particular environment is what's going to help the environment to survive. Okay. So if you want a strong economy, you've got to have a diversified economy. But they ain't talking about that, are they? Military industrial complex. That is to help us dominate the world and pound people into the ground militarily. Wall Street, That's to give us the economic domination to do sanctions and tariffs and all the things we need to do to push people around. Hey, there's a country that doesn't want to do what we want us to do. We'll use our economic might to destroy them, right? That's still war making. It's economic war making. And last but not least, technology. Why? Because we can shut you down. We can dominate you. We can control AI, and everybody's got to come to us for AI. And then we can say, you're not getting AI unless you do what we wanted you to do. We can say, we are not getting money unless we want you. That's the sector is money. You ain't getting any money, and you can't do business unless you do what we tell you to do. AI technology. You're not getting any technology. You're not being able to use the technology unless you do what we tell you to do. See what I'm saying? The common thread is we're only putting our money in sectors that allow us to bully and to dominate and to push people around that we can weaponize. That's it. Actual weapons, technological weapons, military weapons. Those are the three weapons. That's where we're putting our money, which means what? Which means you don't have a diversified economy. And if one of them goes to hell, you're crapped out. You should have 15 different things in an economy. But here's the issue. Here's the issue, right? Number one, how's that working out? In the banking sector, BRICS is rising. And what is BRICS doing? BRICS says, because you're using your economic might as a weapon, we have to come up with alternatives so that we can get out from under that. So the time is coming, and it's maybe here, where your economic, at least your economic power is not what it used to be. And your ability to use that to push people around ain't what it used to be. How about the military industrial complex? Oh boy, you don't have. Did you know China just came up? People are like $3 and $4 million for each for these some of these and millions for these hypersonic missiles, right? China's selling one for 99,000, of course, just like so many other things, right? So the field is being leveled on weapons, and we didn't even have one, might I add, hypersonic. Okay, so in military industrial complex, our air defense systems ain't worth a crap. Our stuff is overpriced and underproduced, and that ain't working well. Now let's go to technology. Have you heard of DeepSeek? As we try to dominate in AI, other countries are working on it, and they're coming up with less expensive alternatives. Why? Because our plan for AI is to dominate and make as much as we want. So the U.S. says, I'm putting $500 billion into AI. Well, why wouldn't you put that into other things? Because you don't care about other things that will help the people. We can't afford healthcare for you, can't afford decent schools. Why? Because we got to have AI. Why? Decent schools are building a firm economy, a long-term economy, a diverse economy. It's building an intelligent, knowledgeable workforce. You don't need an intelligent, knowledgeable workforce. In fact, you don't want intelligent, knowledgeable people. You want puppets and idiots. Right? You want people running around saying Putin is a dictator. Maduro is a dictator. This guy that you want people to report only to say what they're told to say, that they don't even know why they're saying it. And if they start getting too much of an education, they'll start saying, what do you mean when you tell me every damn country that doesn't want to go along with what we want is run by a dictator? But every time I check, the people in that country love this dictator. How are you a dictator if the people in your country love you? No. An education will have you asking those kind of questions. That's unacceptable. Now, what we're looking at now is also part of this. So if you look at they're only focusing on rebuilding the economy in ways that will help the 0.01% maintain their grip on power or regain their grip on power, which is detrimental to you. The next thing you got to realize is this: because they've lost it, this is what they're doing. It's a Hail Mary. It's a $500 billion Hail Mary, right? And it is $1 trillion for the military, which, as you probably know by now, because of if you add in all of the things that are related to that to the military, if you add in all of the things that are related to intelligence, it's more like 2 trillion. And then when you add in $500 billion for AI, which any way you look at it is a military and global domination objective, it becomes $2.5 trillion. You start realizing, my God, they're spending, we can't afford healthcare or this or that. Who's going to pay for it? Of course we can't. You can't afford anything except the 0.01% trying to dominate the world. It's a Hail Mary. It's a recognition, actually. Well, our military ain't getting it done. Damn, we can't use them. Oh crap, our economic power is weak. We're up to our ears in debt and all kinds of other stuff. So that ain't getting it done. So what can we do? Let's do a Hail Mary. Let's throw all this money at AI. Well, what happens if that don't work, which it isn't? So what you're looking at is an AI by the political class, the political elite, the economic elite, a Hail Mary to try to dig themselves out of a mess that, and the mess is not necessarily an economic mess. It is an ideological mess. It is a mess that says we want to rule the world and it ain't working anymore. That we can't accept. The Ottoman Empire fell, the Roman Empire, the Greco-Roman Empire, whatever, the Habsburg, the unit, all kinds of stuff, Austro-Hungarian Empire, all of these empires have fallen, but we can't accept that ours is going to. It's just like the Nazis. It's like the Third Reich that said we're going to take over, and then the Third Reich is going to have 1,000-year reign. Well, you ain't getting 1,000-year reign. And in a world where technology is increasing rapidly, you ain't going to get 1,000-day reign, because by the time you get this grip on power, people have invented something to break your grip on power. Okay. And if you think about it, one of the things that's discussed is the absurdity of the EU Hail Mary to defeat the Russians. They've already lost, right? Think about this. Oh, they're nuts. They're insane. They're crazy. What are they trying to do? They've already lost this war. Okay, yeah, that's them. And that's their focus on China. And you're looking at them, you're saying, what the hell are they doing? They want to steal all that. What the Russian assets? That is a recipe for economic disaster and destruction. What a Hail Mary. And it is. The Europeans are like, we're done. We're screwed. We're finished. And our only hope is to try to overthrow Russia, take all of the Russian assets, and then we'll move from there. We can use the Russian assets to dominate the world. And you're looking at it saying, that's insane, because it ain't going to work, and you've already lost the war. For as much as it seems that the U.S. People are realistic, it's the exact same thing with China. It's the Hail Mary. They're like, you're crazy. You're nuts, guys. You've lost the war. Now, there's certain huge element in the United States leadership that are aligned with the Europeans on Russia, of course, because they feel the desperation. But they won't. What we've got is this one group that says we have got to. We have no choice. We got to continue going after Russia so we can defeat Russia, and we can then have that money. We won't be so in such dire straits, and then we use that as a stepping stone to take out China. Right? Okay. There's an element in the ruling elite that says that's insanity. That one's lost. Let's do this. We'll give up on that. We'll make friends with Russia. We'll still, we're going to separate Russia and China. We're going to separate Russia and China. And then once we separate Russia and China, we can go after China. But they don't admit that we've already lost the technology race with China. We've already lost the economic race with China. And in China's region, we've already lost the military race with China. So now their thing is this. Ukraine, that's stupid. But let's turn the Philippines, Japan, and South Korea into Ukraine. And we'll use the exact same plan, but we got a bigger Ukraine this time. 3 Ukraines instead of 1. 3 for the price of 1, right? So it is, let's do that. Let's go after China, or what we've already lost in every single way, shape, and form. So basically what it is it's people that are laughing at the Europeans saying your goal of weakening Russia or overthrowing Russia so that you can then move on from that is absurd. And we got the same goal against China. Let's abandon it with Russia because it didn't work, and then we'll try it with China. Again, what is it? It is a Hail Mary. It is a recognition that we're in a world of deep and serious trouble, and this ain't working. And so we're going to do this, and we'll go after China. Now, the other part of it is this. It is a refusal to acknowledge real politics, right? Wherein one thing about the Russians. Now, I got a couple books here, right? People's War, People's Army, General Giap. On War, Karl von Clausewitz. Both of those understand a number of things about war, but one of the things they understand is the importance of dealing with the people. You got a war going on, or you want to fight a war. Number one, you have to have a just cause. Number two, the people in your country have to believe in the just cause and have to be united behind it, right? The Europeans are saying the opposite. We don't give a crap about the people, and if the people push back against it, we'll crush them. And if the economies push back, if the political parties, political people start pushing back, we'll crush them. It is not an understanding that you have to deliver for the people. It's a view of the people as an impediment. So you're going to do things that crush their future and that crush them. And if they get in the way, you're going to crush their present. It's a totalitarian fascist mentality. Kaya Kallas the other day, apparently there was some discussion about we're going to take Russian assets, and there were people saying this is madness, we can't do that, it's illegal, if they take us to court they'll win. And apparently Kaya Kallas is reported to have said, there's no court in Europe that would dare to rule against us. In other words, it doesn't matter about the law, we can use lawfare. Doesn't matter if we're right or wrong. We have the power to go after these courts, to go after these judges, to manipulate the law in the same way that they manipulate economies, in the same way that they manipulate politics. Other just basically, they're fascists. We got a big fist, and we can force people to do what we want. That's internal totalitarianism. With totalitarianism, we can force the people to do what we want. We can force the businesses to do what we want. We can force the courts to do what we want. We can force the voting machines to do what we want. And so we can get who we want, the outcome voting, everything. And then that's the internal expression of fascism and totalitarianism, the totalitarian domination. The outward expression of that is we'll force Russia to do what we want, or else. We'll force China to do what we want, or else. We'll force Slovakia and right. We will force everybody around to do what we want, and then we'll ultimately get what we want because we can force people. And we don't care about the law. We don't care about anything. We only care about the outcomes and getting what we want. It is the jungle, the laws of the jungle. You got the biggest fangs and the biggest claws and the most power. You can dominate everybody else through whatever, by any means necessary, right? And so the U.S. is saying, well, we can set up ways to force China to do what we want, even though since they won't do what we want. It is the exact same thing. It means that the leadership of Europe and the leadership of the U.S. is aligned in their means and methods. They're just pointing their crosshairs at different people or different groups, different countries. And ultimately, it's the same mentality. I can get whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I can manipulate things. I don't want to lose power. I don't want to accept reality that the world is modernizing and I ain't part of it. And now the U.S. says, well, we'll just go. And this is what I love about Trump. Biden would say, we're here for democracy. This is democracy. We're coming together to bring democracy in the world against authoritarianism. Trump says, hey, Venezuela's got oil. We're taking it. Now, the problem they got is, again, there are realities. You can pretend that you don't give a crap about what the voters and people, the people out here think. You can pretend I don't care what they think, but then there's quite likely a price to be paid for that. Now that's the problem. So Trump can say, I'm going to go steal the oil. I'm going to go attack Venezuela. I don't care what they say, but the enemy gets a vote. So now it's okay, but not only do I not have the technological domination, not only do I not have the economic domination, I don't even have the military domination. I can't put together an expeditionary force that I can put on the ground and rule Venezuela. I got to take Venezuela militarily. I got to destroy their military, number one, their military capability to resist. The problem is then they still have I can't even do that. Number one, then there's a partisan ability. There's all the partisan army and the other army that's going to be out there on the ground. At some point, I got to put soldiers on the ground with a rifle. And I can't do that anymore. I got 16,000 soldiers for a country the size of France and Germany combined. I can't do that. And the people in America have had enough. So what I have now is a bunch of people who are saying, hey, man, you promised us jobs. We want jobs. Yeah, well, by jobs, I meant war. You promised us that you wouldn't give us more. Yeah, and by that, I meant I would give you war. But when I said no, what I meant was, yes, I will. So screw you. I don't care. But oh crap, the midterms are coming. How can I steal them? How can I dominate? How can I do what the Brits did? I can't just throw my enemies in jail or rub them out like the AFD candidates. I can't do the things as openly in the United States as these fascists did in Europe, because the Americans are a little different than that. America is different, and it's not as easy to do here as it is over there. People have an expectation here. They have an ideal. The ideals here are, we really believe we should have a constitution. We really believe we should have a, whatever you want to call it, democracy, constitutional republic. We don't have it, but we really believe that we do it. We have an ideal that says we want to get there. And if you just come out and say, all right, screw it, we're taking the mask off, you ain't getting it, Americans are going to go apeshit. They're going to go angry. They're going to get furious. And instability, the ruling elite doesn't know how that'll end up. So right now, what we're looking at is a plan that is hatched by the 0.01% that does not take into account the needs of the masses, of the other 99 point, whatever percent, 99.99999%. That is actually detrimental to the 99%, to the working class, to the masses, that ain't going to work anyway because you're too slow in technology. It's nothing but a Hail Mary. And then when it flops, you're going to be a world of deep and serious guana. So what we're looking at is this AI push is a Hail Mary. And all it is a focus on, we're going to dominate the world and we need a means, and maybe AI will be it, but AI ain't going to be it. And then you're going to spend all that money on that, and you're going to try to dominate the world. And at some point, the people are going to say, well, you don't give a crap about us. We keep voting for you, and you get in office and you tell us you're going to try to get us jobs, and you do AI, which will, if it was effective, even if it worked, which it won't, would cost us all of our jobs after running on a platform that said you're going to reindustrialize to bring us jobs. And if you did reindustrialize, which you ain't, you'd use AI, which means you wouldn't need us. And oh, by the way, even their gig jobs of AI driving around people for Uber is going to disappear with AI cars. Everything you're doing is to the detriment of the working class. And that's the reality. The AI is the neocon AI war is a war on the working class. It's a war on average citizens. It's the government saying we have plans and we represent the 0.1%, and we're tired of hiding it, and we're desperate, so we can't afford to hide it anymore. The only thing we can do now is completely out in the open represent the 0.01%. But Trump's in a jam because he needs to go after Venezuela, but he knows if he does it, he's in a world of crap. He's in a jam because even if he goes after Venezuela, it's going to be Ukraine, basically, because it's going to be a flop. You're going to lose the war. And then how do you hide losing a war? And how do you go after Venezuela when you're about to start the midterms and a bunch of people voted for you and said no, and you're going to see people challenged, and they're still dealing with Gaza, and they're still dealing with this online war on anybody who's trying to say things that are in opposition to what the ruling elite wants. They're in a mell of a hess. But the reality is, I just wanted to make some points about AI that are very important. I want to check. I think that's it. I think that this whole situation's falling apart. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedules. I'm getting ready to do another show in a few minutes with Dr. Jeremy Kuzmarov. So come right back for that. But I did need to say a few things about AI that I think needed to be said, and from the perspective, from a broad perspective, not just AI is good or bad, not just watching Terminator, watching Ex Machina, which is a damn good AI movie, right? Might I add. But not just that, but from a broad perspective of international politics and from international economics, and particularly how it affects you and me on a day-to-day basis, and why it's part of a broader plan for the ruling elite to regain power that they've lost, and it ain't going to work. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. For those who can, if you can become a Patreon member, or if you can donate on PayPal, buy me a coffee, anything like that, that's highly appreciated. Don't forget, I got a PO box that'll scroll across. If you can, people send me letters, people send me magazines, all kinds of stuff, cards that say hi, and of course some people send donations. Certainly appreciate those who can. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a wonderful day. The most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.